Hey, Brian. Welcome back to the program, sir.
Thanks for having me back, even though I think our first one got lost in the weeds.
I was going to say that. You sent me that message, and I have no idea what happened. So years ago, Ryan and I sat down to record an episode, and it was probably well before Poststatus, right? I think.
Before the club, probably, or
Yeah,
maybe right around when it launched.
right around the launch, and I have no idea what happened. I do know that back then I had an editor for the podcast.
Oh,
I had a guy
the
that
blame game.
I had a guy doing some audio production for me, and my workflow was something like upload things to S3, send him an email, share a Google Doc, and then post it to Trello. And some of this stuff was automated with Zapier, so I don't know what happened. But the great thing is we're going to talk about some of that stuff today.
Yeah, that's all right. Even if it's not broadcast to the world, a few minutes spent with you is a good time.
That's right. So, Brian, for folks who don't know who you are and what you do, give us the 2-minute elevator pitch. What's going on in your life?
I'm a WordPress developer of sorts. I did client work for several years, and I now work for myself. This is actually my first time working for myself in the past, I guess it's been a little over a year and a half now. And that is running the Poststatus membership club, which is my full-time job. I do news and information for WordPress professionals is kind of the way I gear it. And it's a WordPress membership site that I write on, and there are a variety of other features. So there's a community component through Slack and things like that. And my day-to-day is definitely spent talking to people and writing and doing administrative work and customer support, all that kind of stuff. So I've been doing that for about a year and a half now, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's interesting that and I've heard you say this on other podcasts and just talking to other people at WordCamps and whatnot, you still open yourself up as a WordPress developer, not sort of a journalist or entrepreneur in the sense. Why is that? Are you still doing development for sort of clients too, and managing the Poststatus?
No, I do like calling it the Poststatus, though. That's fun. So I guess I call myself that because it's my best way to get across kind of my point of view in terms of what people should expect when I'm writing. In terms of design and development, I've never been a full-time designer, but I design all my own stuff. So I guess in a way I'm a designer. I mean, also I'm really into user experience stuff. So I'm a web person, and I was a developer in terms of what my role was at companies. The last place I worked was a real small company, and I did a lot of operations stuff. I've also, prior to WordPress stuff, I did project management and like engineering sales, so like technical sales and project management. But I feel like just saying I'm a WordPress developer is easy, and I still do some development for Poststatus features, and then I've done one kind of quasi-client project per year the last 2 years, just to kind of make sure it's something I'm still capable of, and to stay sharp and whatnot. I'm actually starting one right now, and I'm not charging for it. It's a nonprofit. It's my church, just to, a way to keep sharp and give back a little bit of that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
It's not really a need as much as want to make sure that I'm in a position to be able to talk about what I'm doing and all that.
Yeah. When you started the journey into making money by writing WordPress news, which was maybe about a year, like you said, year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. Some folks that are out there sort of look at that and go, oh my God, is there any money in that? Can you actually make a living with that? Recently, another popular WordPress blog, WP Lift, was acquired by a gentleman named Dan Toll, or Don Toll, who actually airs today on the Matt Report, if I can push it out the door. I had the chance to sit down and interview him and talk about how he purchased that blog for around $200,000 US. Have you been surprised either pleasantly or negatively from your start of making a living writing and creating WordPress content? Has this journey been a success so far for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been a success. I would say I've been kind of on track with regards to what my 1 year and 2 year goals have been. For my year one, it was revenue-wise a higher year of revenue than I had made previously. However, revenue, when you're managing your own business and spending more money in terms of kind of all the things that you have to do, doesn't necessarily equate to net revenue. So net revenue, I did not make as much as years before, but it was well within what I was prepared for. So I only paid myself, and I'm in the U.S. and mid-market. Birmingham, Alabama is not like New York City, but it's more expensive than a lot of countries, I guess. So I only paid myself, and I'm thankful I have a wife that makes a great income. So, if all else fails, we could probably just live on her income. So I paid myself for the first year $2,500 a month net. So that was a huge pay cut for me from a net perspective. It's $30,000 after taxes. And then it turned out in year one, my post expense, post everything net revenue was like $55,000, something like that from the Poststatus side. And that was based on about $100,000 income and about $91,000 from Poststatus.
Nice.
So revenue-wise, I felt like that was, reasonable for year one, where you have to get every customer to pay you. It's a membership site.
Sure.
And thankfully, with recurring revenue, as long as your renewal rate is better than your renewal rate plus your new member rate is better than the people that do not renew, then you make more money the next year than you did last year. So because I had a significant enough safety net above that little, that gap I had between what I was paying myself month to month and what I made, then I was able to give myself a raise this year.
Sure.
But, so I try to treat it like it's a real job, and I have a paycheck, and then I have a business account that has a balance in it, and one of the fun things I've learned is just what you have to pay attention to when you are self-employed, which is, paying quarterly taxes and managing your expenses and managing contractors that work with you and all those things. So, it's been totally successful and within what I was hoping for. And my goal all along has been 1,000 members after 2 years. And I probably have to pick it up a little bit in order to get there. I'm around 700 members right now, and I've got about 6 months to go. So technically I'm on track, but, over time you hit more saturation, like more people know about what you're doing and yet have either chosen to join or not join. So you have to provide more incentives or give a better marketing pitch or something like that. And I really haven't done a great job of that. I just rely on current members like yourself, telling people around them whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. So hopefully they say it's a good deal, which means that I'm doing something right. So
now that we're sort of neck deep in your success and we're like Uncle Scrooge swimming in the pile of gold coins, let's take a step back, because folks here, let's just do a quick recap. Let's say we're roughly at $100,000 in revenue, and we're WordPress publishing company, right? We're writing about WordPress. We're doing what we love, and we're growing a community. For a lot of folks, that's the end game. Like, they would love to be at, in that position. Let's take a step back from day one. How did you sort of just map out or bullet point the milestones that you had, right, for growing the revenue so you could support yourself, you could pay yourself the $30,000 net, you could hire other people, you could spend money on hosting and writers and stuff like that, or editors. How did you bullet point that and sort of roadmap that to achieve those goals, just to give somebody a base on what maybe they should expect and maybe outline how they should approach, maybe they want to start a WordPress blog and make some money from it as well? Sure.
I mean, for everybody, it's different. I would say I was able to start the membership site, and I already had somewhat of a following of people that at least would read stuff when I published it. And based on some blog posts where I was talking about the future of Poststatus, I had some idea that some people would subscribe. And I was basically under the feeling like, okay, well, if I can get 100 people to become members, then it's worthwhile to do it for the whole first year. And if I get like 250, then it's viable. And, I just set these kind of arbitrary goals based on what I thought was possible. I actually think the market in terms of who I could get is probably in the several thousands number, like maybe 2, 3, 4,000 people that I think could benefit from this, or maybe more, but that's like my long-term might convert type of number. In terms of how I got to the dollar value, it was pretty much like, what do I feel like I need in order to do this and justify this instead of doing client work? Mm-hmm. And there's a market out there for people that do the type of work that I do, building WordPress websites. But I find joy and value doing what I do, which is, working relationships that I have and being able to take insights and information from business owners like you and other people and distribute that to other business owners, designers, developers, people involved in the WordPress community. And I just find so much joy in that it was worth, at least for a temporary pay cut of sorts,
Sure.
to see, is this viable? Because prior to me doing this, really the only way people monetized WordPress news, and I hesitate to use the term WordPress news because I try to make it more than news, like things for the day. I really try to make it stuff that's going to improve people's position being in a WordPress business.
Got it.
Their knowledge base. And, I just, so you got to figure out like, what's the lowest amount that I can make and make this worthwhile? Mm-hmm. And my partners, the corporate partners that I signed up, I did this $2,500 per partner, and I limited it to a dozen partners. So at $30,000 was kind of like my little lifeboat of, if all else fails, that's obviously a few months worth of revenue that can, let me see if this is going to work. So that was really helpful, having this two-sided approach between memberships and partners. But prior, like I was saying, people really only did this type of work either with a benefactor, so whether it's Matt Mullenweg or a hosting company or whatever, that was essentially funding a project that doesn't directly make money, mm-hmm. or people like WP Lift that do a mix of news, reviews, and whatnot, and they make a lot of money in terms of affiliate income or paid reviews and stuff like that. And I've never done affiliate income or paid reviews or anything like that because I felt like it allows me to be more objective if I have my readers pay me rather than base it off of how many affiliate sales I can get. And so far it's worked. It's worked well enough. Like there are certainly a lot of blogs making a lot more money than me, but I'm able to do it where
in the WordPress space, you mean?
In the WordPress space.
Okay.
I'm able to do it in a way that I'm accountable to my readers and members, and that's it. And the reason I went with 12 partners rather than, say, one partner for $30,000 or something like that is because I also didn't want to be beholden to any one company as an advertiser. I can't separate editorial and business like a classic newspaper would.
Sure.
They all negotiate with me. But if I make one partner mad enough with a post, because I'm not going to hold back just because there's a partner.
Right.
Fortunately, there's 11 others, and if they, don't want to respect my editorial independence, then they can have their money back, and there's people that will take their place. Right. So, fortunately, that hasn't been a problem.
Yeah.
It's mostly nice people in our space.
I want to get back to some of these bullet points that you mentioned, but one of the things that I just want to riff on for a little bit is when you and I look at, and I say you and I because some of our content is crossover, but when we look at, or when I look at anyway, like traditional Silicon Valley or big business, big partnership deals, advertising deals, in other spaces, like let's say again, traditional Silicon Valley, businesses are so big that publishers can move from partner to partner without sort of the concern that you and I have for offending people, right? In this space, which I don't know, it's good and bad, and I don't really have a concise sort of conclusion to all of this stuff. But I almost want to say is, number one, our marketplace, our space is big. Like, there's money to be made here, but at the same time, it's small. Like you said, you have 12 partners, and you're still trying to play. I don't know, lack of a better word, you're still trying to play nice in between all. I mean, I know you're not, but the idea is, you and I still don't want to offend people, like especially hosting companies and all that fun stuff.
You always want to be respectful of the people in your industry either way.
Right.
My bigger reason for the way that I handle editorial is I want to be able to cover the story I'm covering right now and have access to cover the next story. Probably more so than protecting partnerships. You know, if I had to, I could go no partners and be members only paying, and I'd probably raise the price a little bit, and I might not see really any difference in revenue. I don't know.
Right.
But I like having partners. However, I do tend to cover those partners a lot because the people that can afford to pay for partnership, advertising, things like that, tend to be the bigger players in the space.
Right.
In the first year, I actually decided not to allow any host to be a partner. I didn't invite any hosts to be partners, so it actually limited even more in terms of companies big enough to shell out $2,500 without knowing what value they'd get out of it.
Right.
This time around, I invited my own host to be a partner, so like it was easy, still pretty justifiable for me because it's like I get asked who I host with a lot, so it's like whatever. If I can tell who I host with, I can invite them to be a partner as well, and so that worked out. And I didn't get any blowback like I might have been afraid of. And I think a lot of times our fears in terms of what people will respond to in terms of who's paying the bills or whatever are a little overblown.
Yes,
and so far it's worked out.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, and that's the thing, and we see, and I see this all the time. There are people, not to go down this dark rabbit hole, but there are people that complain about pop-up ads or ads on mobile or just ads in general, and I'm one of them. Like, if you go to The Verge and you try to read an article on your mobile phone, it's like playing whack-a-mole because the page just keeps loading down and down. You're like, oh, here's another ad. You're trying to get to the content, but at the same time, we have to make some money here, right? We have to somebody has to pay the bills, short of, in your case, having membership members that are actually paying that. Go ahead if you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I mean, our little tiny space in the world is so much different, though. I mean, I don't provide any data to partners in terms of like how well their advertising is doing. It's most of them. Even though I try really hard to provide value for them, most of my partners probably consider it much like a WordCamp sponsorship in terms of supporting the community and supporting the work that I'm doing and being a independent resource to provide information to other people. And hopefully that has some positive benefits for them. And I'd love to say that I give every dollar value back. And I'm sure for some partners it works out that way, but for some others it may not. And, that's it. Advertising is so complicated and difficult to figure out whether something was worth it, even if you're doing a lot of data tracking. But I don't do any of the type of data tracking that the much more cutthroat, broader digital publishing world does, and I'm glad that I don't have to.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that point up about tracking and performance, because I too agree that in our space there's not. And I'm sure you've had this before, right? There are hosting companies that are out there that say, hey, we'd love to sponsor your podcast or your website. And I've had this come up before where they say, yeah, we'd love to do this. We'd love to do this partnership. And I'm like, yeah, I'll entertain it. The dollars seem pretty good. And then they send you like this, legalese of 50 pages. And it's, what are the stats? Make sure that your read is word for word exact. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to partner with you. Not because I want to be beholden to share this data with you. But in this space, in the WordPress space, I mean, it's so word of mouth. It's so much I trust this other person and how they build their sites and how they serve their clients that I will take their recommendation word sort of word of mouth again, and and that's big in this space. And guess what? We can't track that. All I know is that's how it plays out in this space. I don't know any other way to say it, and there is no data tracking capability of that, not yet anyway, not until we have little RFID chips in our brains for folks to sort of scan. But that's for another conversation. One of the things that you mentioned before, which I want to make sure that people sort of fully understand, is this wasn't, again, I'll just throw the round number out there, $100,000 per year writing content. People say, wow, that's amazing, right? And I had this sort of talk with Dan about WP Lift. Oh my God, a blog sold for $200,000. That's crazy. Can't believe that's how much that was worth. People don't realize that you've been doing this for years prior, right? This isn't like your first rodeo and you showed up and, you walked away with your Tesla. You've been doing it for years. So just quickly, like, what was the background of your editorial journey before this?
Sure. I launched the membership component on January 21st, 2015, so a year and a half ago, almost exactly. But I launched Poststatus on January 21st, 2013, I think.
Yep.
So on the 2-year anniversary of my personal website, or WordPress website, I launched the paid component. So for 2 years, there was really no monetization. One of those years, I had a partner that I charged like $500 a month, so it basically covered the cost of the platform and maybe a little bit on top of that for my time, but not really. So I was really not monetizing at all for those 2 years. And then I've been writing about WordPress in a capacity similar to what I'm doing now since early 2010. So that was like 5 years of paying my dues, building relationships and readership and all that stuff before I tried to monetize it. So it was not an overnight, like, oh, look at that. They
Right.
have all these members. It was a lot of work that I put in, and it all started just with writing about what I was learning when I was trying to become a full-time WordPress developer myself, and I was still working in a completely different industry. And I just decided to share what I was learning, and very gradually started to get to know some of the people behind the companies that I was writing about. And I didn't ever really do much tutorial stuff. The avenue that I did a couple of years of writing before I started Poststatus was through WP Candy, which was a site similar to Poststatus, WP Tavern, whatever you want to compare it to. And I just was writing for free and learning and building a network. So, that's what it takes a lot of times. You just got to do stuff, put it out there, and build up your own reputation. Let people decide, like, hey, I'm going to trust what this person's writing about for this and this reason. And then eventually you can turn that into some sort of monetization component, whether you start a podcast and have, $1,000 ad buys like you do on Matt Report, or whether it's, starting a membership site or a course, or maybe you decide to advertise your theme business through your writing. Honestly, I think there are a lot of ways to monetize websites, and direct advertising is one of the most difficult in order to do it with. I don't know if people in your network are familiar with Bill Simmons and what he's done. He's the guy from Grantland. He also created 30 for 30. Very creative person, always created great content. But after he had his fallout with ESPN, he started his own thing, and it's the Bill Simmons Network. And he's essentially been funding his The Ringer publication, which is the text component, through his podcast. And he had a huge audience because he's done decades of great content and built a following, but he's still hardly monetizing through direct ads. He's monetizing through his podcast, and he'll probably monetize through events and other things like that. And I think if you follow people that are talking about how to monetize digital publishing, and if you've seen the people that are doing it, direct ads is just a part of it. Affiliate stuff and podcast advertising and all these other things tend to be more valuable. And for me, I chose the membership route, the subscription route, with a partner component. And I call it partner, not just to be cheesy, but I can't separate myself from the companies that are advertising. So I invited companies that I trust and that I believe in and that I am proud to have as, corporate partners. So it's a recommendation. It's not an affiliate thing. It's just a recommendation, and they're paying me a flat fee for being on that list. And I promote them in whatever capacity I have available to me, whether it's through the newsletter, through advertisements on the website, or readouts on the podcast, whatever. And it's worked out pretty well so far. But I've scaled it to approximately one person and two contractors. So in the broader world, it's much more difficult. There are people that are doing it. The Information is a fascinating publication because they have a significant staff and they are a subscription-based website. And I do think subscriptions are going to be a bigger component to digital publication in the future than they are now. But there's just not a lot of evidence of it working really well. And the people that it is working well for are pretty differentiated from other options in their space. Another awesome example is Ben Thompson writes about technology on Stratechery. And I know the last time he said how many members he had, it was like 3,000 that pay $100 a year. So he's probably one of the better paid writers out there. Because I'm sure he has more than 3,000 now. But he puts out incredibly good content in terms of what he's writing about. Even though the topics are similar to what every tech blog has, like I know when I open an email from Ben Thompson that I'm going to gain value out of what he's writing that I probably won't be able to gain without searching really hard outside of his emails. And if you can differentiate yourself, and I don't care whether it's about WordPress or about technology, it could be about yard work or gardening or like anything, home building. I think if people can figure out a way to differentiate the content that they're putting out there, then they can figure out a way to sell that information and sell that knowledge, whether it's a subscription or a course or an ebook or however they decide to do that. And I think that it's a very rewarding way to make a living.
I totally agree. One thing I want to just mention, yes, Bill Simmons is actually 1 hour away from me in my home state of Massachusetts. Yeah, maybe he doesn't own the house there anymore, but it was Marlborough, Mass.
Yeah, he lives in L.A. now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he does.
But he's a total Boston sports homer, which is disgusting to me.
I love it. But one thing you brought up, and I want to mention as well, is partnerships, the corporate sponsors, the advertisers. One of the things that I feel, and I'm sure you feel the same way, and you've sort of been alluding to it all this time, is in this space, again, just throwing it out there, it's hard to track the data, hard to track the value that partners would get with folks like you and I. One thing that I feel is so near and dear to my heart is really taking care of people who decide to part with $2,500 a month or $1,000 for podcast sponsorship, and really sort of making it the value coming from sort of the way that you present them, and not in like a tricky fashion, but really support what they're doing. It's almost like you're not going to take any partner, number one, right? Somebody comes knocking on your door and I got this great page builder. Can you promote me for $5,000? No, you want to make sure that one, they give back to the community. They're a straightforward company, and they've got a great, good to great product that they put out. But it's also, I feel, some responsibility on folks like you and I to really, take care of the advertisers, not just take their money and say, ha, you'll never find out where this went, but to really take care of them, because I feel like so many other people in the space, it's like one and done, see you later, give me your affiliate link, sort of this flash in the pan kind of, I grab some money from the sponsorship and now I'm on my way. Like they don't really give back to their sponsors either. And I feel like you do a really good job of that, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Oh, well, thank you. One of my least favorite things, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of my least favorite things I hear is when a host says, all right, we got to thank a sponsor real quick. Like we've got to thank a sponsor. Yes. Like it's our obligation. And, they're paying money that they don't have to be paying to sponsor whatever you're doing. And I just find it important to believe in the companies that are sponsoring the work that I do. So I want to thank them in any way I can. That's going to hopefully deliver some value to them. But the thing you have to do first is to believe in the companies themselves. And, no company is perfect. They all make mistakes. And I've written positive and negative things about many of the companies that I'm partners with. But I do believe at their core, all of them have close enough of a mindset of what running a WordPress business should look like to what I feel like it should be, that I'm perfectly happy, taking their money in support of what I'm doing and doing my best work to promote what they're doing in an ethical way. And I can't imagine doing it another way. I would just hate to just be like, all right, we're taking a break now for this MeUndies advertisement.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, folks that have followed me for a while probably know that we did when we started our own agency, we did a printed publication for local tourism to the south coast of Massachusetts. And one of the things that, the only the way that the thing was supported was through direct ad sales. And, here you have a digital company pushing traditional ad buys in print publication to a very, very niche market in this area, tourism, which isn't huge, but this area used to be the number one whaling capital in the world, so that's like the only thing we still hold on to around here, and some great beaches and some golf. But anyway, that is to say that when folks did part with maybe $600 for a half-page ad, we really, number one, appreciated that, but number two, we worked for them. And advertisers was a little mini network of people that we could also do some B2B business building with. So if a plumber advertised for us, we'd also let them know that the local, one of the local hotels also advertised with us, and maybe they need a new contract work done for plumbing in their hotel or whatever. So we worked hard to co-sponsor and help build businesses, and I feel like that you do that at Poststatus, and I feel like many of us should do that more and take care of our sponsors more, because I think it's just the right thing to do, and that's just a little diatribe on that. Do you feel successful with where you're at right now?
I mean, everybody always wants more, so I wouldn't feel like my appetite has been fully satiated. I think that's the right word. But I feel like I'm okay saying that I'm proud of what I've built so far, and I'm more than that thankful that people have entrusted me with their hard-earned dollars, just to send them content and create a place where they can have their water cooler conversations and things like that. I mean, I think that's amazing. But I mean, no doubt, I've got goals, and I want more. I want to have a broader reach. I'd love to make a little more money. Absolutely. I mean, our family is just like anybody else, where we've got student loans and mortgages and all those things that I'd love to pay off. To be honest, if I erased every dollar of debt today, I'm not sure what my monetary goals would be then. Like, would I suddenly say, like, okay, I'm cool making like less per month because I don't have these debts, and let's just cover what it costs us to live a small life in Birmingham, Alabama. I have no idea what my feelings would be in that scenario. Mm-hmm. But I hate debt. I don't even care if it's like relatively responsible debt, like a mortgage. Like, I just want it to go away. Right. So the quicker I can make those debts go away, the better. And I mean, we're so fortunate to not be in significant debt. Having some school loans for my wife's pharmacy stuff is really no big deal, considering that she's well compensated for the debt that she took on. And then, a mortgage is a privilege to have in many ways, that we are able to own our own home. But I still want to get rid of them. Right. I don't like them. Right. I would like those things to be paid for. So I mean, people have to define success for themselves, and I think it's important to define your own success beyond the monetary component of that. And yeah, I feel so far like it's successful, and I also feel like I have a lot of improvement to do. I'm probably one of my bigger critics. I'm sure I got some pretty big critics out there that might compete with me.
Nah.
But I would love to deliver better content through the newsletter, and I would love to deliver more consistent content. Deliver it maybe at the same time instead of some days at like 3 p.m. and other days at 2 a.m.
Right.
There's all these goals and things that I'd like to do, and I'm not satisfied, but I do feel privileged to be able to do what I'm doing, and I've definitely would say so far it feels successful.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, that's great to hear. I think that it's funny. I bring up that question. I always talk about success a lot and sort of defining your own success and sort of the, this sort of false reality that a lot of marketers put out there about success and how easy success is to come by, right? Or allegedly how easy it is to come by. So they sort of paint this picture that, all you have to do is this and you will achieve your goals. Because I feel like when people come to the internet and they say, I want to run my own business, they Google that, they search for that, they feel like they can just put these pieces of this blueprint together, and they're pulling from blueprints from all over the place that are trying to put it together, and like, if I just do this, I will be successful. I harp on this a lot because I want people to realize that, again, even in your situation, as you mentioned, you're doing this, since 2010. This wasn't just the overnight sort of success and the tracking of bringing an audience in and having these connections just didn't come overnight. That is not to say that somebody out there who's listening to this couldn't do what you did, or do what you do even better. It's going to take some time. It's just not going to pop off and happen in a second.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some people can be much quicker in terms of how they get to market and do stuff, but I don't think that's the norm.
Right. I totally agree.
I have it on my mind. You're talking about success, and I think it's worth mentioning one of the segments, especially in the WordPress world, that I'm most impressed by is people that consistently for years manage to stay in business in the consulting market. Because, you look at most companies that are doing some form of consulting and you think like, man, they've got 10 employees or however many, or maybe it's just one person. It doesn't matter. Like, consulting is so hard because even when you're successful, you're probably between 1 and 3 months of bad incoming revenue from just going out of business completely.
Right. Right.
And it's so hard. And I have incredible amounts of respect for people that are satisfied with the consulting business and manage to stay in business year after year. It is an incredible feat. And if that's not successful, being in business and consulting for a considerable period of time, then I don't know what is, because it is a tough business that I don't think I have the strength for. I much prefer knowing there's a little bit of recurring revenue there, and I can screw up for a couple of months even, and probably stay in business even if I lose some customers or whatever. Consulting people are just amazing to me.
I think I stole this line from you, and maybe you stole this line from somebody else, but in one of your podcasts you said, every great agency is only 1 month away from bankruptcy, or at least something along those lines. And let me tell you, we've been doing it for 8 years, and we have a small team. And I recently wrote about this. So I'll just make a mental note to sort of link this up in the show notes. Is when somebody asked me if I felt successful, a lot of the times I say no, and a lot of the times it's for the same reasons that you mentioned. It's you feel successful, or people look at you and they say, well, obviously he or she is successful, but you've got this desire to do more, whether that's monetarily or just getting more people to impact more people, and I feel the same way. Like, we're in this business of, man, it's tough. Clients are tough, agency work is tough, product is tough, marketing is tough, but at the end of the day, we are our own bosses, or a collection of partners that are our own bosses, and we are not doing this manual labor, very stressful, mentally taxing, but there could be worse things in life
absolutely.
to be doing, right? So I say, are you successful? Because I had this question asked to me yesterday from a super successful person, and they were like, so how do you, I mentioned something like, well, success for me is right around the corner. And he stepped back and he said, well, you don't think you're successful now? I look at you as successful. And it just made me pause and say, yeah, you're right. Like sometimes we lose sight of this. Like I've been doing this, lucky to be doing this for 8 years and still surviving. Although it's never fun. Some months, like you said, the grind of finding more clients is definitely difficult. But it is successful to be doing this for this long. Regardless.
Balancing ambition with satisfaction is difficult. And if you can't have some level of current satisfaction, then happiness will be hard to come by.
Yes.
It's just, you have to be able to find contentedness and satisfaction day to day. And Paul Jarvis said something recently that I really liked, and it was basically along the lines of how, he's probably not going to accomplish some really big thing that just blows up overnight and is wonderful. But he can try to do some little things day by day that over time build up to be a big thing. And I think that's a great goal. To harp back just a minute on what you were talking about with regards to, consulting businesses go out of business, just to give people some napkin math. And I know people probably do consulting, but just to remind ourselves, I guess, how hard it can be is, let's say you have 10 employees and doing some bad napkin math, it costs you maybe $10,000 per employee to stay in business. You have to book $100,000 a month to stay in business. So that doesn't actually not just book, you have to bring it in. So getting those invoices paid is part of the challenge.
Yes.
And the up and down potential is so difficult. So if that 10-person agency has 3 project teams, then you have to bring in, say, 3 $30,000 projects a month to keep those people fed. And you have to do it month in and month out. Mm-hmm. And to be able to do that well is pretty amazing. I have a lot of respect for good managers, good salespeople, and people that keep those pipelines flowing.
One of the things that Chris Lemon and I talked about in the recent episode that he was on was, again, sort of getting caught in the wheel, and nothing against anybody who's putting the information out there or the training or the other membership sites that exist about how to capture better clients. Hell, I'm guilty of it myself, writing about this kind of content on how to get the $10,000 client, the $50,000 client. But the one thing that sort of goes by the wayside is the expectations of these clients, or like you said, not only do you have to book this work, hey, great, you landed a project. You landed your first $50,000 project. Awesome. Guess what? Have they sent you the $50,000 yet? And if so, if not, when are they paying these invoices? Because the difference of just that element, right? So people go, oh, I just need to get bigger clients. I just need to get bigger dollar clients. What will happen is you're probably going into the more corporate world when you're doing that, or an enterprise space, or bigger business. Their expectation of paying you is not, oh, here's the invoice, I'll pay you tomorrow. No. It has to go through accounting. It has to get the approval. It has to get, stamped and sent out and mailed and verified and all this stuff. And you're lucky if you're getting paid in 60 days, which is a complete surprise to the first comer to this kind of space. And that's sort of one of those things that just because you're landing bigger business doesn't mean it's going to be better for your business. You have to just be wary of all that stuff and be prepared for it, for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when I was working with Range, we were a pretty small team and doing pretty good sized work, and we liked to specialize in being flexible to demanding clients' timelines and whatnot. So it was always funny when you had a situation where you needed to start now, be done in a month, and it took about the time you're launching the project or ready to launch the project, the down payment is coming through.
Yep.
And, you have to decide whether you're willing to take that risk or not, and whether you're going to take that client at their word, and maybe it's based on whether or not they've been a cooperative client before or whatever. But it's tough, a lot of times if you have a demanding client and you want those big logos on your sales page, which may or may not have the value you think, if you're going to do that, you might have to deal with some crazy terms and payment schedules and all sorts of stuff that you probably don't have to deal with as much on smaller dollar stuff. One of the more successful freelancing things that I've done, I charged like between $750 and $1,500 per site for about 5 or 6 websites that were very similar to one another. And my hourly rate, like effective based on the amount of work that I put into them, was probably higher than a lot of projects where I could do, maybe charge $10,000.
Yes.
Because I was in that situation, I had a partner that I was working with where they were handling every client interaction, and I never had feedback that I had to deal with. And I was just taking some assets and some information and creating these websites that were only taking, maybe 3 to 8 hours a piece or whatever. So like you can do the math. It's a couple $100 an hour at the end of the day,
right,
which was great for $750 to $1,500 websites.
Yeah.
And, there are some freelancers especially do this, but there are some agencies too that specialize in being efficient at the lower end, which is, it's got so much value if you can do it securely and safely. If you can provide a $1,500 website for somebody, you're getting a business online that just doesn't have a $50,000 budget.
Right.
And there's something noble about that.
Yes.
And I wouldn't discourage people from taking lower dollar projects. I would encourage them to express the value that they're delivering and to maintain their profits while they're doing it. Don't do it for $10 an hour.
Right.
But if you can get somebody online in just a few hours, maybe it's using a tool like Conductor or something to be able to get more fluid homepage layouts or whatever, that if you were hand coding those would take a lot longer. And the client, it gets the job done.
Right.
It gets them what they need. And if you can do that for a lower price, then that's awesome. Nobody should be ashamed of a $1,500 client or whatever. I once joked about the Matt Report drinking game of having to take a shot every time you said $500. That might be my lower limit. 500 is not a very high amount.
Yeah. No, listen, amen, brother. Amen to all that, especially of the Conductor plug. I really like that. But seriously, like, again, I grew up, and my partner's my father. We grew up in car sales. He being in it way longer than I was. We do not shy away. Anything less. We will take on a $3,500 job if we're going to be profitable with it, right? If we're going to be profitable with it and we have the bandwidth to do it, yes, we're going to do it. But at the same time, we're working on $70,000 jobs, and it's just like, look, we don't shy away from stuff that, one, we know we can be profitable with, and we can really provide value to our customer. If we can really support them and get it going and we're profitable, we're going to take it, because we're not stupid. We know here comes the summertime. Here comes 60 days worth of nobody doing anything because everybody's on vacation. And then we've got 2 months before, or 2 or 3 months before people start going on holiday vacation again. And then, just being ready for these seasons. Product too.
Seasonality is huge. And a lot of Poststatus members have been talking about that recently with slow summer sales. And then it happens again a lot of times around the holidays. You just gotta work through it and discover those patterns and prepare for them. I think Curtis McHale does a great job with this. He tends to see a lot of his income in the first half of the year.
Yes.
So once he learned that lesson, he started planning. And you don't pay yourself every dollar you get in the first half of the year. You hold some of that back so you can pay yourself later. I run into the same thing. I get those checks from partners early in the year because that's when I launched, and those don't come in for the rest of the year. So my bank account balance in my business account is a lot higher in January, February, March than it is in November, December.
Right.
But you learn and you figure out how things are set up and you account for that.
This has been an amazing episode, Brian. What is next for Poststatus? I know I'm going to see you probably in Boston, right? Sometime this year, soon-ish, I think.
Yeah, I'll be in Boston for WordCamp Boston in July. And I'm going actually in part to prepare for a day of rest, dayofrest.hm is the name. I'm partnering with HumanMade to put on a conference about the REST API. And that is going to be in Boston October 27th through the 29th. So if people are interested in the REST API, that can be my non-Poststatus plug for the day. So I'm really excited about both of those events in Boston. Be my first trips to Boston as well.
We'll welcome you with open arms for sure.
Yeah. And then if you get this out before WordCamp Europe, I'll be at WordCamp Europe, and I'm really happy I'm going to be able to do a business panel. And also, I'll be interviewing Matt Mullenweg for 30 minutes during his keynote. So I'm really excited about that.
Don't throw him any softballs, sir. Don't throw him any softballs.
We'll have a good time.
All right. Poststatus, anything for that? Where can folks find that? Where can they sign up? Where can they post to the job board? Oh.
Poststatus.com is the website. Poststatus.com/club is where you can join. There is a podcast. I don't know if it's the #1 business WordPress podcast. I think a guy named Matt Medeiros makes that claim. But I think our podcast is pretty good. Joe Hoyle is the CTO and co-owner of HumanMade. He's my co-host, and we chat about all things WordPress. We usually take on one topic per week and just kind of go from there. So go to those places, and just maybe by the time this is published, there will be a job board. So sure, why not? Go to poststatus.com/jobs, and we'll see if I can hold up my end of the bargain. I've been trolled about this for a year.
This is going out next week, so I doubt it, unless you've already got it unless you're uncovering it at WordCamp Europe.
We'll see.
Brian, great episode. Everybody else, mattreport.com/subscribe. It's the #1 way to stay connected. You can subscribe to the show, subscribe to the newsletter, which finally went out yesterday after a hiatus of about 7 months since the last time I sent an email. And oh, by the way, Real Talk for marketers, I lost 35 subscribers when I did that. So Get ready for the mental struggle of newsletter marketing and email marketing and all that fun stuff. Check out the new venture. It's plugintut.com. It's your home for handcrafted WordPress plugins, and Plugged In Radio, a new podcast. You can find that in iTunes and Google Play. Just search for Plugged In Radio. We'd love to get a 5-star review there as well. Till next time, thanks, everybody.